we're back with Speak No Evil. This is just an extra spoiler, just a quick spoiler discussion regarding Speak No Evil. We're assuming you guys have seen this movie, okay? And you know which family, the Danish family and the Dutch family. Well, let's spoil that out right now. The Danish family, they're good. They're the city dwellers. The Dutch family, the ones who invite the Danish family, they're bad. We all know this. Let's get into spoiler territories. Eric Holmes, where do you want to start regarding spoiler discussions of Speak No Evil?
So when we talked about when we're doing the reviews, talked about a toy, which I call them idiots for going back for. So in the movie,
rabbit, right?
I don't have to explain it. By this time, you have seen the movie, hopefully. But if you haven't and you just want a spoiler, that the family that they're with seem kind of odd and probably not people you want to be around. Lacking social graces. Yeah. And so they're like, the wife's like, we got to go. We got to go right now. And the husband's like, what? And it's like, they're asleep. Let's get out of here. So they get in the car and they leave. They get their daughter and they leave. And the daughter's like, oh, I don't have my doll with me. And then they decide to go back. What the fuck? But so like that, so that's a part where it's like, what the fuck are you thinking? Just keep going. Like these people, at that point, you don't know that they're dangerous, but you know that they're not probably people you need to be around. And then so they go back for the doll, like idiots do. And then that makes the rest of the movie happen. But then there's another part where there's the dance scene. It's the two kids dancing, and the bad guy dad, he is already, or dad, air quotes. If you've seen the movie, you know why air quotes dad is probably appropriate.
Patrick is a bad dad.
Yeah. And so he's yelling at his air quotes son and basically being extremely abusive. And I think at that point they're locked in. Like now you can't leave. You know they were being abusive to the son before, but like I get not wanting to get into domestic what are they going to do? Take the kid and leave? Like that's kidnapping. You can't do that. But now after that dance scene, now they're at a point where we're fucking locked in now. We got to call child services or we got to do something. And then I think what this movie does really well that maybe we probably should have mentioned on the review, but it kind of leans more towards spoilers, which is where we're at. Before that dance scene, there was that scene at the dinner table where the good mom is telling the bad air quote mom, you can't talk to my child that way. You can't tell them not to do that. I need to be the one to tell them not to do that. Or I can't remember exactly what the thing was, but the idea was, don't be a mom for me. That's my job. I'll handle that. And then they get to the dance scene, which is I think almost the very next scene.
It's the next scene, yeah.
Next scene. And then what she's telling the bad mom not to do, she's doing the same thing. But there's definitely a reason why she would step in. So it kind of, and it also plays into the whole, gaslighting theme throughout the entire movie of, you're a hypocrite then, because you can be your mom and I can't be mine. And it's like, they didn't really go there, but I think that was kind of the implication. And there was like a bunch of little stuff like that throughout this.
Well,
but
it doesn't Patrick and Karen also they kind of play it off as like we're living life a little more. Like just you guys have to just let yourselves be loose a little more and just kind of be like that whole scene where he takes out and he yells on the sand dune, and that kind of stuff. It's like you're just got to live life and enjoy it and be open. They use that a lot too as ways to kind of like try to get around some of the stuff they're doing.
So Bruce, we messaged. We didn't involve you and Greg because we didn't know if you had seen the movie at the point yet. But I'll bring it up now. But we were talking behind your back.
Yeah, that's fine. I approve.
And all that joking, I forgot where I was going. But you mentioned what the fuck did you mention? God damn it, I can't remember the.
What did you mention, Bruce?
Was it about how they're abusing kids a certain way, or?
The ending.
Yeah.
So we find out that they're killers. They kill the boy that presumably they'd kidnapped prior.
Right.
And then they cut the daughter's tongue off and kidnap her. And then we were talking about motive.
Right.
Like what's we know all the minor points of the movie or what the movie's really saying, the metaphors and all the stuff in the movie, but like the actual plot that's going on, like what do you think after going back and watching again, what do you think the motivations are, or what do you think the evil family is up to? I'm
still torn because we talked about like, well, are they abusing the kids more than just physically? Is there something else going on there? But then I also had the idea that maybe they always have those kids to get the next family. So it's almost like that always makes them less of a threat or a weirdness when they approach another family, because like they're a family too, and they have a kid that's disabled or has a disability, and that makes them even more likable. So they kind of have an in, like they're more accepted by another family. So but the other dude is in cahoots with them too, the quote babysitter, because he's obviously there.
Yeah.
He's part of it too. So there's a bigger kind of a plot there, and I don't think stealing is necessarily enough to get their physical items. So it's almost like it's a weird power play. It's almost like they enjoy the game of it, like to see how they can they can basically break down a passive, polite family and destroy it. And I don't understand how that's really a motive for most people, but maybe they're just so insane as a couple. Which, by the way, Patrick and Karen are actually married. Those two
I didn't know that. Wow. They
That's
feel
Hopefully
like a
they
couple.
don't actually kidnap children and murder
Hopefully
them
not.
along with their families.
But yeah, I think that is an interesting question. I don't know if I have a great answer for it. I don't know. What do you think, Greg?
Well, I think that, like you said, there's that other person who helps them. Okay, towards
Yeah.
the end, where he actually takes the daughter Agnes from the vehicle towards the end of the movie. So
He takes the
obviously,
mom. Well, yeah, he takes the mom, holds her down first, and then takes. Yeah, you're right. You're
right,
right.
he's choking. Yeah, no, you're right. He's choking the mother, almost choking the life out of her, and then while he's choking the life out of her, Karen takes the blunt, scissor, whatever, and she starts cutting off one of the tips of the fingers of Louise, right, the good mom, and Louise is screaming, and she eventually lets go of her daughter, and the daughter's taking care of their, I guess, coworker or colleague, and I'm assuming maybe it's inferred that guy, maybe he might be trafficking these children. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe, or he's either that or he's their assistant. Because at the end, you see the girl, the daughter, now being she's their de facto child, but they actually visited a whole area where there's several children. So you're wondering, why are all these children here? So there's a whole kind of ring that I'm thinking might be going on. But the bottom line is, this is a couple. They're serial killers. They prey on husband and wife, just couples, married couples, and they kill them. And they kill especially passive, weak couples, and they just get off on seeing them submit to them. And what's interesting for me is there is a point where Patrick, the bad dad, he stops the car for a second and he goes out to urinate for several seconds, and he's basically daring Bjorn, just Bjorn to actually act and try to do something. Just out of his own skin, and the fact that he doesn't actually turns him on even more, because he's giving him an out. He's actually giving him chances. Yeah.
And he literally urinates several times in this movie as an act of like dog-like dominance. Like he does that multiple times in the movie. And can we just call out? Okay, you can call out anything you guys want to. I want to call out just the way it's written and acted in certain scenes is amazing. There's the moment when the shit's going down and the car is stopped and the other car's over there. You don't know what's going to happen yet. And, the girl's really terrified and holding on to her mom, and her mom is saying, oh, don't worry. I will protect you. I won't let anything happen to you. And then Karen just starts saying, go ahead. Give her to me now. Come on. Oh. Shh. Give her to me. No. Go ahead. Let her go. It's just the way she does that is so freaking sinister. And the way it all just goes down is just... I watched that scene again, and it's chilling to the bone. It's really rough. And then, of course, the ending scene.
Yeah, the way they die, the way Bjorn and Louise die there. What is it? Is it a sand dune, a rock quarry? What? It's a little bit of both.
Rock quarry.
Yeah, so they're just all the way down to the quarry, and they don't even fight. It's the theme of they're acquiescing to what's there, to the inevitable. They know they're going to die, but still there is no ounce of fight. Maybe Bjorn tries to fight a little bit, but then when he gets hit back by Patrick, then he just slinks again. But now they tell them to undress in front of the top of that rock quarry, and they tell them go all the way down, and they're not fighting one bit. And then they die because the bad couple, they throw rocks at them, and eventually they're bloodied and they're down in that rock quarry, and they pass away. And it's the way they die from all those rocks is just horrifying to watch. But I think you can take it as that social thing about when you know something bad's going to happen, what are you going to do to stand up, even if that inevitable might happen? Are you going to fight back, or are you going to, because of social graces, try to be polite through the entire experience? I don't know. So I just thought it was really, the way they died was very just horrific for me. So
That and the wife character, the good wife character, I kind of alluded to it or mentioned it in the review at the beginning where they had to tell her to shut up like 3 times, and like, dude, do you not see? Like, how do you not understand what's going on here? Like, it's kind of like almost if someone's got a gun to your kid's head and said, I'm going to shoot him. It's like, why are you being such an asshole? I'm like, now's not the time to poke the bear, dude. You're in a very bad situation right now. You need to back the fuck off.
well, that's such an interesting point, Eric. And I wonder if maybe the answer is Patrick and Karen, the bad parents, they didn't respect their prey. They're the victims whatsoever. But I'm wondering if they respected Louise more because she actually talked back a little bit, whereas Bjorn is just trying to play the game and just trying to be nice. Really?
No, because she's just flying off the handle, probably out of anger, I imagine. I mean, it's all made up, but in that situation, you're better off kind of being quiet and trying to plan in your head what you're going to do.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is show your cards, and that's all she wants to do. I'm angry and fuck you and blah, blah, blah. And now they have her under complete control because she's off the, she's just flying off the handle. One thing I did kind of want to bring up, and maybe this will explain that whole thing. There's a lot, like this movie is really heavy on gaslighting. And in fact, we've seen a bunch of movies recently that have done that. God's Country did, what was it? All My Friends Hate Me. That was pretty much gaslighting the movie, and this has a lot of that. I don't know if this is maybe I'm giving too much credit, but I'm kind of, as much as the gaslighting, watching it in movies annoys me, I'm kind of happy that a lot of movies do that, because I wonder how many people will watch movies like this and recognize gaslighting patterns in real life when people do it to them.
Yeah, maybe it could be very instructive. I think, you know what, Eric, I believe after watching Speak No Evil that this was a very enlightening, insightful, instructive movie, because it tells you how to act in times of crisis. But it's what do you say to that?
I agree. I was thinking when I watched it something along similar lines, like, so it does kind of a couple things that you always hear about, like they always talk about people who get into a dangerous situation that kind of escalates like weirdly, and they get that gut feeling, and the people that actually respond to that gut feeling and get out of the situation will survive a lot of times. The people that don't end up dying. Or another example I always think of is and this is kind of a movie example, this is like the big movie example of this idea, is that this self-defense in crime kind of guy, I remember him talking, and this always stuck with me. He said, like, if someone gets out of a car, pulls a gun on you and says, get in the car, first of all, you never get in the car, because the minute you get in the car, you're dead. And this movie kind of is that. And the second is, they point the gun at you, you start running. And sure, they might shoot you, but every step you take, they're less likely to hit you. And this movie is kind of the big version of that, right? They got in the car, they didn't know where the rabbit was, but they weren't likely to get hit the further they drove away. And instead, they turned around, and
they turned around for the rabbit.
Even at the end, as they're driving away, he was right behind them. What does he do? Fucking drive off the road.
Yeah, he could have just kept driving. He might have got driven off the road, but he might have made it out. So at all times, they were second guessing themselves. They weren't going with their gut. Every time something seemed wrong, they talked themselves out of it, or they let themselves be talked out of it. And that's kind of the biggest thing in this movie.
One of the great things about the movie was because they've gaslit them throughout the whole thing, even when they turn around to go for the toy, which was a mistake, obviously. But the bad couple, they came up with their, oh, we didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. And they started, kind of gaslighting them in a way of, this is what you saw, and we didn't see it that way. We're sorry, blah, blah. They're setting up the next gaslight, essentially. But then when he sees the son dead in the pool, and then that's what, we got to go. I don't think he mentioned it to his wife. That probably should have been information she needed, but he didn't give it to her for whatever reason. But anyway, they're driving away, and then when they get the wife and the daughter, I'm like, well, they got to know, like, how are they going to talk themselves out of this one? And they did.
Yeah, and that sequence where he actually finds the pictures of all the couples in these vacations and their respective children, and you're realizing, wow, can you imagine the people who've died, and their Polaroids are up there in that
the trophy
shack.
room.
The trophy room, that is just so scary to watch, to experience. And
So-
it's that reveal, that was a reveal that I was alluding to, that which really was chilling for me. Not just the seeing the boy in the water dead, but that was just chilling.
So I was partially wrong. After mentioning that last part, I'm partially wrong about the good wife not reading the room. She still wasn't reading the room, because like, she didn't have all the information. She didn't know that the son was dead at that point. So obviously you gotta give her some, leniency on that. But still, when everyone else is quiet as fuck, or like, you can still feel tension, right? I'm not the only one that can do that. Like,
well,
you guys
I
are
think
able
the
to feel
daughter felt the
tension.
tension. The daughter was scared.
Yeah.
And realistically, she shouldn't have been, right? Like, if she didn't know anything was wrong, she shouldn't have really been scared there. But it was enough weirdness going on that the daughter knew. And I think that gets at the point of like how the politeness thing even extended to his own family, because Bjorn doesn't want to like make the daughter upset, so they go back and get the rabbit. He doesn't want to upset his wife and his daughter when they're escaping, to let them know how bad it is. And by doing that, that's another fatal flaw. When he goes to try to walk to that other farm or whatever it is, and leaves them in the car, he doesn't say like, if they come, run, or something, because
Yes.
they're dangerous. So all throughout, the same way he's making fatal flaws and kind of being polite to the bad ones, he's also doing it by shielding, quote, his family. And by shielding his family, he's actually not arming them with the information they need to have.
That's a very good point, Bruce.
That's a really good lesson. Actually, when we cover Young Plato, I don't know if you guys watch that yet, but we'll cover some of that, because I think the default with people is, oh, you're a child, I need to protect you.
Yes.
But at what point does like I don't want to give you this information because I want to maintain your innocence. But at some point, and granted, this movie's an extreme example of that, but at some point you have to give your children information. And if you don't give them information, that's going to harm them,
Right.
And so by wanting to protect them and protect their innocence, you're actually hurting them in a lot of ways. And granted, parenting, there's different ways to go about that. But I think in most cases, you just got to be honest with people as much as you can be, because that's always the best. That always has the best outcome, I think.
Well, you're supposed to be wise enough to know that it's for the greater good for them to learn the harder lesson now, but to be armed for the future, as opposed to just trying to shield them from the little bit of fear or whatever now. But in the long run, they're not going to be armed to understand how to deal with a bigger problem. And that's kind of the point.
Right. Speaking of which, when Abel is killed and he's in that pool of water, okay, and Patrick finds out, the bad couple, they're letting them find this out.
Oh, yeah.
And they're letting them escape. They're giving them basically their victims a head start. And they're
toying with them.
That's it. They're giving them a head start to toy with them, and that actually makes their killing just even more pleasurable. And I found that, wow, that was just something that that's crazy. They actually gave them that head start, knowing that eventually that couple will either screw up or they're just gonna catch them themselves, and that chase is gonna make it even worth the killing, make it worth even more. So I just thought that was beautiful.
So Bruce, when you watched this the second time, was there, because we talked about why they kept the kid, and you thought that there was like possibly sexual abuse. I didn't think that was the case, because I didn't get that read, but did you get any of that after watching the second time?
I don't think there's anything explicit that makes us think that. I think it's just when we think of people abducting children, and kind of like Greg kind of intimated at too, like maybe there's some kind of a trafficking ring or something going on. I think that our minds go to that automatically, but I don't think you necessarily have to have that there. And I don't think it almost honestly doesn't matter, because no matter what, the child is severely abused, right?
Yeah.
And severely traumatized and severely destroyed mentally. So whatever sort of abuse they're getting, it's kind of a moot point in this case, because it's really the mechanism that gets them there and what is going on, like, but the interrelationship that's causing this to happen, it's the important part of this movie, I think.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I mentioned to you was that the child that they get was like a trophy, and then Greg just mentioned that why did they let him go, and then that was just to kind of, so maybe the keeping a child as a trophy, because basically they're harboring evidence with them all the time. They cut their tongue off so they can't talk, but they can certainly still communicate. But I wonder if like
that's a good call.
They have the child for a certain amount of time, and they're like, that's kind of what keeps them going until
like
they find
a trophy.
another...
It's a trophy, a reminder, and it's in plain sight, and then nothing can be done about it. It's like a person killing somebody and wearing that person's ring or something, but it's a more like obscene version of that.
But maybe they're like not so much sexual excitement, but just like whatever excitement you get from murdering people, maybe that's what keeps them going until they find their next couple. And then they'll kill the daughter, and then
right. That said,
couple.
I don't see this happening. But this movie has it has a framework. If they actually want to cash in, this could be Speak No Evil Part 2. They could be Speak No Evil Part 2. They could do that.
The next one will be Hear No Evil.
But no, because
See No Evil.
Speak No Evil Part 2. Will this couple survive? Right? Again, a new couple. Maybe instead of Tuscany, maybe it's in Paris. So, anyways, that is our spoiler review discussion of Speak No Evil. Tell us what you think of this movie. Tell us what your read of Speak No Evil is. Any final thoughts, words, Eric, Bruce? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Eric, what is your review of? What is your rating of Speak No Evil?
No, I'll stick with 4.5. But the more we talk about it, like the problems I had with it, I'm thinking it sounds like the problems I've had with it are more deliberate choices that the screenwriter and filmmakers made. So
still 4.5.
Hey,
it's a great rating.
I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong.
No, there's no such thing as wrong on these ratings. Remember, I gave minus 3,000 stars.
No, there is.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you next time on Find Your Film.